Hi there. Today on Tired of the Crud Auto Repair, we are going to be doing a job that a lot of guys are scared to do, but there's no reason for it. Today we are going to be doing how to replace or to disconnect your engine oil pan from a 98 to 02 Toyota Corolla. It's not a hard job. You just got to know what you're doing, and that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to show you how to do the job and give you all the neat little details you need to do to give you full confidence to get this job done. Now, if you, after watching the video, if you decide not to do the job, that's up to you. But I believe every guy should be able to do this. And I think anybody can do this job. And just so you know that I really think, fully confident that after watching this video, anybody can do this job. So let's see how it goes, okay? All right. The next thing that we do is we use our scissor jack that comes with the car to just a little bit lift up the passenger side car off the ground to give you more clearance. The tire should still be touching the ground. And then use a socket wrench, in my case it was a 9/16, to turn the drain plug counterclockwise and drain all the oil out of the pan into a drain pan. And let me show you something here. You take this 9/16 wrench, put it over the drain plug. And then you take the closed end of another wrench and you bring it, hook it over like that, and then you press counterclockwise. This gives you badly needed extra torque. Okay? Okay, now on to the next thing. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a 1/4 inch, or whatever this, 3/8 inch socket with 2 extensions and a 10mm socket on the end, and we're going to undo all the bolts on the drip pan. Alrighty then, so we have gone and we have removed all the bolts and nuts from the engine oil pan. And just to note, there are three of these fixtures that are nuts. The rest of them are bolts, but there are 3 nuts. I cannot stress this enough. If you want to make this an easy, unaggravating job, then you need to have the discipline when you remove each bolt to put it into a container. You're asking for big trouble if you do not put every nut, every bolt that you take out of any job that you do, any small piece, and put it into a container as soon as you remove it. The other thing, this is Toyota Seal Packing 103 FIPG. It's for oil pan and camshaft housing. The last 5 is 00103. If you're going to do this job correctly, you will go and get this from the dealer. They sell it at the parts supply store. It is only $20 and it is well worth it. Do not get it from an auto parts store, because I did, and as it panned out, it didn't seal quite right. Also, in this area right in here, I'm trying to show you as best I can where there's this bar, that bar right there, see this bar right here? There are 2 bolts that run pretty much right underneath of it. Okay, you're not going to be able to get those bolts out with your socket wrench with your 1/8 inch socket, okay? You're going to have to go and get the close end of your 10mm wrench. You got to get the close end of your 10mm wrench, and very carefully, very gently, very slowly, move it. It's a very narrow place on both sides. You have to be very, very patient and just nudge it a milli-inch at a time. A milli-inch at a time. And you will get it to budge. It won't look like it's moving at first, but the very first time you put the close-in 10mm wrench on it, it will start to move, but only a very small amount at a time. Keep after it, don't give up, don't quit, keep going, and if it'll help you, use a flashlight so that you can see the progress that you're making. So, the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to use a flat tip screwdriver now that we have all the bolts out, and we're going to use this to start to pry off the engine oil pan from the thing. That is how you do it. When you're removing all these bolts in the 3 nuts, the oil pan is not going to come crashing down on you. The seal is still pretty thick. You're going to have to use a flat tip screwdriver or a butter knife to pry it off. Okay? And I do believe that that is what we need to know for now for this particular section of the video. And so we will move on to the next thing. So in order to get this job done correctly and without any problem, I had to remove the dust cover from this side of the engine oil pan. And I used my hammer, and I used a flat tip screwdriver, and as you can see, I managed to use a hammer and screwdriver to wedge the flat tip up under the front part, passenger side, and I am prying it off. You can see it move. Okay, so I'm going to cut this off, and we'll go to the next step. Alright. Alrighty then, we are back. And as you can see, I have used the Toyota packing seal that I said that I was going to use. It worked very well. It worked very, very well. It took me a little while to scrape off the existing gasket seal, but you know, the biggest thing you can tutor with this is that you just got to be determined to get that off of there. You just got to stay with it. And 2 things of note: I use a flat tip screwdriver to help me with this, but I actually used a scraping tool with a razor blade end, sharp razor blade end. I guess that's called a scraper of some sort, but that is what I used. And the other thing that needs to be said is that I've put this onto the pan already. I've already scraped the bottom part of the car where this is going to affix to. I'm going to wait 15 minutes. That's right, 15 minutes from the time that I have just now put this gasket seal on here. And then I'm going to put it onto the car and tighten down all the bolts. Because you got to allow 15 minutes for the gasket seal to dry a bit. And there's no paper or metal gasket with it. It's just the gasket, it's just the tar. It's all that this requires. There's no paper gasket, because this stuff actually turns into a type of paper gasket. When you scrape it off, you're probably going to see bits and pieces of yellow and orange material. At any rate, let it dry about 15 minutes so that the water bubbles, any moisture that's inside of the tar can dry out and give you a very effective airtight seal when you screw it on. And then what you want to do is you want to let it dry the rest of this day. It's about 3 p.m. right now, and I'm going to let it dry till midnight. I'm not going to operate the car. I'm going to use that car instead, and I'm not going to operate my car. And I go to work around 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, so I'll just let the car sit overnight, and when I get in my car, probably around 4 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be ready to go. But The bottom line is, let it sit for the rest of the day and go to work tomorrow morning and you'll be just fine, okay? So that ends this segment, and I believe I will have one more segment after this to close things up, okay? All right, stay with me. All right, I want to mention one final thing in closing here. We have put the engine oil pan back on the car after we put all the bolts back in. There were only two fasteners that were nuts. I said 3 earlier, it's just 2. And they pretty much go on opposite sides. It's easier actually to get the bolts back in again than it is to get them out. I found it very easy to get all of them back in. Make sure that when you tighten them down, that you go one side or the other. Like you go 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and you go 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and so forth and so on. That's the way you're supposed to do it. That's the way you're supposed to tighten. You don't tighten down consecutive nuts, consecutive bolts. It's just the way it is. So it's about 4 p.m. and it's been drying for about an hour. But as I said before, I'm not going to start this car. I'm going to let it sit for the rest of the day. And I have a spare car that I'm going to be using for the rest of the day. I'm not even putting the oil in it. I won't put the oil in it until probably midnight or something like that. Just because I don't want to risk the possibility of the oil mixing with the gasket seal while it's still drying. And all that good stuff. So I hope this tutorial has been helpful for you. I hope it's been good for you. Because I put all the bolts into that cup, I did not lose any. I took them out one at a time and put them into the cup one at a time. And the only thing that I haven't done yet is I haven't put the dust cover back on the car yet. But I'm not really that interested in doing that right now. It's not really that important. But here is what is important. I just did this job perfectly, effectively, efficiently, and nothing went wrong. One of the things that causes a job to go well is having everything together and organized and having patience. And when you don't give yourself enough time to do the job, you become impatient, you rush, you make mistakes. Now hear this. This job took me 4 hours to do, with all little things going on, brakes and things for the heat, taking a pass for the heat and everything else like that. So just be sure that you allot yourself about 4 hours to do this job. Thanks and have a great day.